do for the world?
Using your hand.
Love is creation raised to a higher degree. Thanks for doing this today.
I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. Then he said to them, "These are my words that I spoke to you while I was still with you, that everything written about me in the law of Moses, the prophets, and the Psalms must be fulfilled." Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures, and he said to them, "Thus it is written, that the Messiah is to suffer and to rise from the dead on the third day, and that repentance and forgiveness of sins is to be proclaimed in his name to all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things. And see, I am sending upon you what my Father promised. So stay here in the city until you have been clothed with power from on high." Then he led them out as far as Bethany, and lifting up his hands, he blessed them. While he was blessing them, he withdrew from them and was carried up into heaven. And they worshipped him and returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and they were continually in the temple blessing God. The word of the Lord.
Thank you, God.
When we think of love.
to arrest the Dalai Lama, confine him, and pave the way for ultimate Chinese control of the Tibetan people and Tibetan Buddhism. Word about the plot spread quietly, quickly, and widely. On the day of the scheduled dance performance, thousands of protesters surrounded the Dalai Lama's palace to protect him. To control this large crowd, Chinese soldiers were mobilized in large numbers, and all the roads leading in and out of the palace area were blocked and guarded. However, they were not prepared for the Dalai Lama's brilliant idea to disguise himself as a Chinese soldier, slip through the crowds outside the palace, and head into the Himalayan mountains for safety. For 2 days and 2 nights, without stopping to sleep, the Dalai Lama traveled on foot and on horseback. It was 2 days before the Chinese leaders realized he had escaped. They sent out a ground and air dragnet to capture him, but by traveling only at night, he escaped detection. Around the globe, for 2 weeks, people feared he'd been killed, and then he suddenly appeared in India. He was alive, and he was free. The Dalai Lama's brave, hidden flight to freedom, I think, is a vivid metaphor for the freedom which today all men and women across the planet Earth are seeking. Like the Dalai Lama, who is still living, we are seeking both a path toward outer physical freedom, and we're seeking a more hidden way into inner, non-physical, spiritual freedom. We're seeking freedom from ignorance and all barriers to universal education. We're seeking freedom from grinding, meaningless, underpaid work. We're seeking freedom from all tyrants, from mob rule and corruption, which cannot long find oxygen in democracies of fair elections, juries, and citizens' initiatives which transcend political parties. We're seeking freedom from all the isms, sexism and ageism, racism and terrorism, anti-transgenderism, fascism, religious extremism, consumerism, greedism. We seek freedom from the common mindset which wants to solve all problems by force and violence. The same mindset that wants to dominate by violence. Today's Ascension story offers timely instruction on this inner way to freedom and an outer way to freedom. Now, the inner way that we can learn from this story is to nurture an attitude we call non-attachment. In the Ascension, the disciples are letting go of Jesus. Let go and let God do the work which God needs to do in all our souls. Jesus was leaving their everyday world, traveling into deep heaven. The grieving, sorrowing disciples were counseled So here is an inner way to freedom, non-attachment. Non-attachment is non-reactive thinking. Non-attachment means that in the face of the most irritating situation, the most minor frustration, or painful conversation, instead of reacting, we create space for ourselves by praying to God and saying to yourself, I will be led by still waters. I will pray for thy will to be done. I will think this over. I will sleep on this. I will wait for more light. In a hard conversation I had this week, I can't say honestly that I adhered completely to this non-attachment method. Especially since I had an agenda to get another face-to-face meeting on police reform with the president of the police union. He and I practically had a shouting match on the telephone. Especially when he said, you and Stan Morgan, you only care about incidents where black people are killed. You don't care when white people are killed. We care about all people, I reply. And that there must be other people than little old me and Stan who are making you angry. Because we've been quietly persistent with you, and we've even added your ideas about more accessible and acceptable mental health care for police officers to our police reform principles. Now, although he had already said he was done meeting with us, by the next morning, Brad Lemon called back. He scheduled a meeting with us for this Wednesday. He says, I want to listen. Maybe he has a higher power, I don't know. Now, all of you who are 12-step folks, you know this well-traveled path of non-attachment. Detached from your worries, detached from your fears, your obsessions, your compulsions, and detached from people who, as we say, you don't get free rent in my head. Instead, detach with love and respect. Forgiveness means giving up all hope of a better past, even when the past is 3 days ago or 3 hours ago. Let go and let God. Non-attachment means detaching from the idea that I have to be the command and control center for all matters in my life. It's the same with you. Because we're not in total control anyway. Our ego and its wants are like the surface of the ocean. Just that little surface. That's our egos and our wants. Without taking into consideration the entire depth of the ocean. So instead, think of what is under the surface of the ocean of your life. Consider that deep, total reality of your life. illustrate again what I mean by that in this way. Yesterday, a group of, I'll say, 15 to 20 people from St. Elizabeth's Catholic Church, I think that's on 75th Street.
Yeah.
They came here for 1 hour to visit, to understand and experience this physical and spiritual building. I took them through all the major areas. They were startled by the merging of the old walls and windows with new spaces for grace. They were startled by the art and the organ and the showers and the clothes baskets. They were startled by the storefront and Stan Morgan's many works, by the kitchen and by the cross. Now, in the midst of this kind of local pilgrimage, I became more aware that as amazing as all of those things are, the building and its parts expressing beauty and spirit and art, they do not include the knowledge of this building and all its facets, how it came to be, why, the creativity that continues to create and recreate it, repair it, even repurpose it in its short life. All those things are not part of the physical building itself. The knowledge is not part of the item. And that's the way it is with our lives. Our lives do not include the knowledge of our lives. The course our lives have taken. Why this or that happened, or didn't happen. Much less where we go from here. Our knowledge is partial, surface knowledge at best. Gaining an understanding of how some obstacle or opponent or some harsh setback you experienced might have a surprise impact. Thinking about those things helps you to understand your everyday troubles and ascend to a higher level of living. One of my daughters this week sent me a video recording, no, it was an audio recording, by one of the greatest composers of folk music and the blues in America, Leadbelly. Huddy Ledbetter. You know, his songs are endlessly covered by musicians to this very day. He was sent to prison following a violent fight in a bar. In that prison, at that time, working on a Library of Congress folk song collecting project, the legendary Alan Lomax was collecting Southern folk music, and Leadbelly met him in prison, inside the walls, and as a result, songs of his like Goodnight Irene, Bring Me a Little Water, Sylvia, The Midnight Special, Cotton Fields, deeper within us, deeper than we can know, there's what I call the mind of God, swaying our future, even guiding our present path, just as the deep waters that are contained in the ocean are moving in a way that is not apparent on the surface of the ocean. In the same way, the mind of God is working above and beyond us as well. Just as the sky and the clouds move far above the surface of the ocean to create future conditions on the surface itself in the form of storms, winds, gentle breezes, and larger, more massive weather patterns that emerge to create the future conditions on the surface. So the mind of God, operating far above and beyond, and from deep within us, that's a much more significant factor in our lives than our limited visions and wants. And that's why we say on Ascension Sunday, ascendance is transcendence. To ascend is to transcend. To ascend is to go beyond the mind that you now have. To ascend, transcend is to go beyond the thinking that you are now doing and the consciousness you now have in order to reach a higher consciousness. When your way is cloudy, pray for the mind of God to send you where you cannot now even see a way to go. Much less why you want to go there. I'm going to start bringing this message to a close with some brief anecdotes. One of the people who was trying a couple of months ago to arrange to sneak into the church after everybody was gone at night went around the exterior of the building this week and cleaned up endless messes on the grounds and in the landscaping. Ascend, transcend. I was coming in from the front of the church on Westport Road the other day, and I saw a man whom we have known and served and redirected at times. He has some serious mental health problems. He was over at the post office in front of, if you go over there and look, a beautiful rose bush. He was picking off the flowers one by one, tearing them up and crushing them. Another man, whom we have served here, went over with me, and together we asked him why he was destroying flowers. And he stopped and went on with his day. At the back of the church bulletin today, at the bottom, is an artwork that you have seen before. I think I put it in different illuminator services. The Upper Room by the incandescent artist John Biggers. Now, the way these three women are looking up into this upper room of spiritual liberation, connected both to the church and to the liberation that's promised by a school and learning. This image has always intrigued me. But when I looked at it again yesterday, I noticed that one of the women is actually helping the two other women hold up the vision. See her hands on their back? We can't just have a vision until they actually find traction in real life. Finally, toward the end of the story of Jesus' ascension, it said that those who witnessed it experienced great joy. And I believe it. It's a great joy to transcend the troubles of this life and ascend to a view of another life. We tend to think this is the only world there is, or this is the only life I have, the one I have right now. But it isn't. There's another way. Jesus said, the way I am taking is the way. You can find it. Take up your cross and follow me, he said. Become brave enough to help God in being God. Become faithful enough to let go. And let God do the work that must be done in each of our souls and in this world. Amen. Good morning, church. Welcome to each and every one of you. So glad to have you here worshiping God. inspirational. That's going to be turned into a performance space over there, and we welcome you. It's free. It's a beautiful art form that Westport Center for the Arts has created and sustained for some years now. So with that said, I'm going to turn this over to Emily Davidson.
Next week, we are going to have extra choir members joining us if they would like to and are able. If you do not have a copy of the anthem for next week, I have some here or can email to you. On a different note, we're going to celebrate our Jen today. We have a cheesecake for after church with strawberry jam. And she'll still be with us next week, but Luke won't, and he wanted to be part of the festivities. So please take a moment to tell Jen how much we appreciate her after 7 years. 8 years with us.
Okay, thank you. And Rita?
I'm a lot shorter than these people. You have an insert in your bulletin today that tells you a little bit about what happened in the Missouri legislative session this year. The good, the bad, and unfortunately lots of ugly. But I'm taking a quote from Scott today: "They do not get free rent in my head ever." So we soldier on. I want to bring your attention to, if you live in Kansas City, there's an election coming up on June 20th for city council members and our mayor. And you might have thought, didn't we already do that? We did that in April. They were primaries, and now we're voting for the top 2 winners. There will be 6 at large. You vote for all of those 6 at large, and then you vote for your in-district council person, whatever district you are in. And once again, the league is offering forums accessible to the public where we ask these candidates questions. There's a list of the dates in this insert. They're all at 6:30. If you cannot join us at that time, they're all recorded and will be accessible later, either through the league's website, and you don't have to be a member in order to access that, or we have a YouTube channel. You can go there, and I have this information that I will post on the back wall there if you want to take a picture of that. I will say that I think the candidates this year are probably the most diverse I've ever seen. They're young, they're all colors, they're all genders, they represent different parts of the city. I think people who don't often get their voices heard in city council. So please attend these forums or find out more about these candidates. This is a very important election because they manage our city and they use our taxpayer money. We want to make sure that they're doing the best for our city. So please inform yourself about these candidates. There will also be some local judges on the ballot, but I'm not sure about that yet. But I will have more information as we go along. The other thing I want to mention, if you haven't registered to vote, or if you know someone who hasn't, you have until Wednesday to register to vote. As long as you're 18 by the 20th of June, you can register to vote. So if you know anybody who hasn't done that yet, please do that. The first day or the last day to request an absentee ballot by mail is June 7th, so that's coming up. So if you know someone who needs an absentee ballot, they need to ask for that by mail by the 7th. No excuse in-person absentee voting starts on 6/17 and goes until 6/19. Unfortunately, it's only Monday through Friday. I think it's between 8 and 5 at the local election board. This is the Kansas City Election Board. However, they are opening up the 7th of June, which is 17th, of June, which is a Saturday. I'm not sure what the hours are, but if you can't get there during the week, they will have one Saturday open. You can vote starting actually now. You can vote if you have an excuse. If you have an in-person absentee voting, which needs an excuse, like you're going to be out of town, you can actually vote now. I think that's all I have. So if you have any questions, you can go to kansascityelectionboard.org. This is again for Kansas City residents. Or other questions, you can contact me after church. I'm going to post all of this information up on the back wall.
Thank you, Reva. Let's bow our heads and lift our hearts for our time of morning prayer. Wise, loving God, compassionate companion, friendly spirit, walking beside us, presence within us. You are the peaceful spirit who leads us beside still waters. You are the guiding join me in our unison prayer dedication at the bottom of page 3. Kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thinking creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates love. Amen. Now as you go from here, be filled with faith and be emptied of fear. Be filled with hope and be emptied of despair. Be filled with courage. Be filled with the love of God. Be emptied of hatred, of self. Be filled. Be empty. Amen.